Insecurity often creeps in subtly, almost like a shadow that follows every step without asking permission. It manifests itself in small decisions, in the fears we try to hide, and even in the silences we keep so as not to appear fragile. But it is precisely in these moments that we begin an internal renewal, even without realizing it. After all, every doubt reveals an opportunity for transformation, especially when we look at ourselves with more courage and less self-criticism. Stoicism reminds us that we can embrace our losses, reorganize our thoughts, and move forward with hope, not to erase traumas, but to understand them and walk with more awareness. It is in this space between fear and lucidity that true self-discovery begins to happen. And perhaps that's exactly what you're looking for. Clarity to take a deep breath and find your own direction. The good news is that renewal doesn't come from grand revolutions, but from small, well-aligned daily steps. When you learn to observe what is truly under your control, insecurity ceases to rule and becomes merely a signal, useful but not dominant. Each reflection here was created to guide you on this journey of overcoming, illuminating paths that previously seemed confusing. With a touch of light humor, practical examples, and references that make everything more relatable, you'll realize that absolute confidence is built little by little. So allow yourself to listen, feel, and apply. What comes next may be exactly what you needed to begin your true transformation. There's something almost symbolic about how you start your morning. It's like adjusting the rudder before sailing. When the day begins on autopilot, insecurity finds openings to whisper that you're not in control, and this shapes your internal rhythm without you realizing it. But when you wake up with intention, even something simple like making your bed or taking a minute to breathe, something inside you awakens along with it. It's a small restart, one of those that seem discreet but carry profound transformation. In fact, many Stoics began their day by reviewing their goals and limits, precisely to prevent emotions from guiding everything. This initial moment reminds you that, despite losses, there is always hope for a new beginning, and that is already a silent gesture of courage. Imagine starting your days by creating a brief ritual, something that brings you presence and clarity, even if the world is still waking up. It could be calmly drinking water, writing a phrase of renewal, or reading a passage from a book like Marcus Aurelius's Meditations, just to align your mind before the chaos. This simple gesture reduces the impact of insecurities that try to dominate the entire day. You begin to realize that self-discovery isn't something grandiose. It's the result of small, conscious choices. And no matter how much old traumas try to pull you back, this morning routine restores your inner power. Little by little, you realize that transforming your life begins precisely in these silent minutes. And that's where the journey of the next reflections gains even more meaning. When you take a few minutes each morning to reflect on the why of your actions, something within you reorganizes itself. The mental confusion that fuels insecurity begins to lose its power because purpose acts as a silent compass. Even if you are still dealing with losses, old traumas, or persistent doubts, this initial question opens a valuable space for self-discovery. It allows you to see what truly matters, not what the world tries to push on you. Works like The Power of Now help maintain this focus on the present, strengthening your courage to continue. Gradually, renewal emerges as a consequence, not as an effort, and this creates a profound sense of daily transformation. A simple exercise is to sit on the edge of your bed, close your eyes, and ask yourself, what motivates me today? You don't need perfect answers. You just need sincerity. This small act prevents insecurity from operating automatically because you are literally bringing light into yourself. It is in this moment that hope finds space to grow, even in the face of difficulties. Over the days, you will realize that acting with purpose reduces self-criticism and increases inner confidence. This prepares you for better decisions, more aligned with who you are. And without realizing it, this morning habit becomes a constant restart. The next step, naturally, will be to understand how to live with integrity in light of this newly revealed purpose. Acting with integrity is like aligning your heart, mind, and steps, even when insecurity tries to distort everything. Often, it's precisely in difficult moments that you realize where your true values lie. When you choose to be faithful to them, even in the face of loss, trauma, or external pressures, something within you silently strengthens. It's not about being perfect, but about being honest with yourself. This alignment brings a sense of renewal that no external praise could offer. Courage is born from this consistent stance, this inner commitment that no one sees, but that changes everything. And the more you practice, the more natural the transformation becomes. Can start simply, fulfilling the promises you make to yourself. Reading a few pages of an inspiring book, such as The Art of War or The Obstacle is the Way, can adjust your focus and remind you why your values are important. When you act with integrity, you reduce the space for the silent self-criticism that fuels insecurity. Self-discovery becomes clearer because you begin to see yourself honestly, without masks. Each small action reinforces that you can trust yourself, and this completely changes how you face challenges. Hope grows when you realize you are walking according to your truth. And naturally, the next step is to develop the courage necessary to sustain this movement every day. Courage isn't born when everything is calm. It arises precisely when insecurity tries to occupy every space. Therefore, by acknowledging your fears first thing in the morning, you don't weaken yourself, you become more lucid. This recognition is an act of self-discovery, because it reveals what's hidden behind the doubts, traumas, and losses that have marked your history. When you take a deep breath and name what scares you, a small internal transformation occurs. Fear ceases to be an invisible monster and becomes a clear point on the map of your life. And curiously, this brings hope because you begin to see the path more clearly. Each small act of courage is, in fact, a disguised new beginning. A powerful practice is to write every morning, "What am I running away from today?" Seems simple, but it opens profound doors. Books like Man's Search for Meaning reveal how courage is born from small choices, even in difficult scenarios. By acknowledging your fears, you create a space for renewal within yourself, and this already diminishes the impact of insecurity. Over time, you realize that courage doesn't require the absence of fear, only the willingness to move forward despite it. This strengthens your confidence and changes your attitude towards challenges. Small gestures, like sending that important message or trying something new, become daily practices of overcoming obstacles. And it is in this continuous movement that life begins to demand the next step, delving deeper into self-knowledge. Seeking self-knowledge is like turning on a soft light in a room you've always entered in darkness. Suddenly, details that previously went unnoticed begin to appear, including old traumas that still influence your current insecurity. When you observe thoughts and emotions without judgment, you realize that many of your fears are simply repetitions of old stories. Losses, comparisons, expectations, all mixed together. This honest look creates space for transformation because it reveals hidden patterns that guided you automatically. It's almost like adjusting an internal mirror, allowing you to see who you really are and not who you think you should be. With this clarity, a more conscious new beginning is born. And along with it, a quiet hope for renewal. A practical way to begin this process is to keep a feelings journal, noting what moved you most each day. Books like The Courage to Be Imperfect help deepen this journey of self-discovery, showing that there is no strength without vulnerability. Gradually, you realize that insecurity diminishes when you begin to understand its origin. This brings courage to face thoughts that previously seemed too big. Inner confidence is born from this deep contact with one's own truth, and each reflection becomes an invitation to act with more presence. Renewal arises naturally when you stop avoiding and learn to face it. And so, the path becomes lighter, preparing you to discover the joy hidden in the journey itself. Finding joy in the journey is almost a natural antidote to the insecurity that insists on projecting fears into the future. When you learn to value the small moments, the smell of coffee, a comfortable silence, a sincere conversation, the pressure of needing to arrive soon begins to lose its power. It is in this simplicity that life reveals its most transformative details, those that renew your spirits without making a sound. This change of perspective acts as a daily fresh start, especially when you face losses, traumas, or uncertainties. Hope appears not as a promise, but as a consequence of presence. And, little by little, your courage grows as you realize that it is not the destination that sustains you, but the way you walk. The journey becomes a constant lesson in self-discovery. To develop this habit, you can create a list called Small Joys of the Day, noting 3 things that brought you lightness, no matter how small they may seem. Reading books like Happiness is Useless shows how happiness is often found where no one looks. By cultivating this perspective, transformation happens almost effortlessly because you begin to train your brain to see what sustains you, not just what's missing. This reduces anxiety and weakens the insecurity that clings to tomorrow. Renewal becomes a daily experience, built in simple steps. You discover that overcoming challenges doesn't have to be dramatic. It can be gentle, constant, and even fun. And it is precisely this new perspective that opens up space to trust your intuition more, the next step in this journey. Trusting your intuition is like listening to an inner voice that has always been there, but which insecurity often stifles. It doesn't shout, doesn't pressure, doesn't demand. It simply whispers possibilities that make sense for your story. To hear it better, you need to slow down and create small moments of silence, even if it's just 3 minutes before leaving home. Intuition is built on experiences, memories, overcome traumas, faced losses, and the constant self-discovery you've been developing. Therefore, when you ignore it, it's as if you're turning off one of your own natural guides. But when you start listening to it, you notice a silent transformation happening. A new hope emerges, a feeling of renewal that doesn't depend on anyone's opinion. A simple exercise is to ask yourself, what do I really feel about this? Before making any decision. Don't seek the logical answer immediately. Leave room for perception to emerge. Books like The Signal and The Noise help to understand this skill as a mixture of reason and sensitivity. By practicing it daily, you strengthen your inner confidence and reduce the influence of insecurity that tries to dictate your steps. Courage grows because trusting your own intuition is also an act of personal overcoming. And over time, you will realize that your choices begin to have more alignment and less doubt. This process naturally prepares you for the next point, learning to appreciate solitude as a fundamental part of this connection with yourself. Appreciating solitude is discovering an inner space where insecurity doesn't need to be hidden, only understood. It's in that silence that you perceive thoughts that, in the noise of the day, go unnoticed. And, curiously, this pause reveals a profound part of your self-discovery, because it allows you to look honestly at traumas, losses, and feelings that still demand attention. Solitude is not the absence of company, but the presence of oneself, renewed and unfiltered. When you allow yourself to stop, the mind begins to organize what was jumbled. This brings a quiet hope, like someone finding an old drawer and finally deciding to tidy it up. And in this process, a more mature courage is born. The courage to look at oneself completely, without haste and without fear. A practical way to cultivate solitude is to take short walks without your cell phone, simply observing your surroundings and noticing your own breathing. Books like The Silence of Erling show how this state can transform the way we deal with insecurity. By allowing yourself to be alone, you create a safe space to understand emotions that previously seemed too overwhelming. Renewal happens from the inside out because the mind finally finds order. And this clarity helps you distinguish what really matters, strengthening your confidence and your ability to overcome challenges. In a short time, you will realize that solitude doesn't isolate. It connects. And this connection prepares the ground for the next step. Using reason as an ally when balancing what you feel and what you do. Reason acts as a beacon when insecurity begins to distort everything around you. It helps you separate what is really happening from what your mind is imagining. And this distinction completely changes your internal state. By practicing this clarity first thing in the morning, you create space for a silent, almost therapeutic transformation. This doesn't mean ignoring feelings, but putting them in their proper place, without letting old traumas or losses guide your every step. Reason brings a sense of renewal because it organizes what seemed confusing. This generates hope, as you realize that not all fear is real, nor does all doubt need to be nurtured. And so, courage begins to emerge naturally, effortlessly. A simple practice is to write down, what is under my control today? It seems basic, but it completely changes how you react to challenges. Books like Marcus Aurelius's Meditations show how this rational clarity reduces the influence of insecurity in daily life. This habit helps you avoid impulsive decisions, those that stem more from accumulated emotions than from conscious choices. Over time, you discover that reason doesn't cool the heart. It protects it. This lucidity strengthens your self-discovery because you begin to differentiate who you are from what you feel in the moment. And this changes how you face life, preparing the perfect scenario for the next step. Becoming a light for others, even while you are still transforming. Being a source of light doesn't mean being perfect, but allowing your presence to make a difference, even when insecurity still surfaces from time to time. Every kind gesture you offer to the world strengthens your inner sense of worth and creates a silent transformation within you. When you help someone, it's like lighting a small flame, and that flame also illuminates parts of yourself that were hidden by trauma or loss. This generates hope because it shows that, even in difficult times, you still have something precious to give. Being light is an act of courage born from self-discovery. The more you understand who you are, the more naturally you allow your kindness to overflow, and this positive energy returns, renewing your inner strength. A practical way to start is to perform a small act of kindness each day. Something simple, like sending a supportive message or helping someone without expecting anything in return. This creates a cycle of continuous self-improvement, as you realize that insecurity doesn't have to stop you from being helpful. Reading books like The Man Who Planted Trees inspires this movement of transformative generosity. Little by little, each action reinforces your courage and expands your self-confidence. You become part of the solution in the world, and this realization renews your vision of yourself. Being a source of light doesn't erase problems, but it illuminates paths that were dark. And so, you end this journey stronger, more aware, and ready to continue growing. As we conclude this journey, it becomes clear that each step taken, however small it may seem, carries within it a gigantic potential for transformation. The insecurities, doubts, and fears that so often paralyze us are not signs of weakness, but reminders that we are alive, evolving, and constantly learning. When we understand this, we realize that the path doesn't need to be perfect to be powerful. It only needs to be true. And it is precisely this truth that shapes who we become throughout the process. Here, each reflection brings us even closer to our best version. Looking back, we understand that each challenge faced brought us more strength, and each fall left lessons that now propel us forward with greater clarity. What once seemed impossible gradually reveals itself as merely a necessary step to prepare us for what lies ahead. Therefore, I conclude by reminding you that confidence is not born from constant success, but from the courage to continue. And if you want to keep evolving, learning, and strengthening your mind every day, subscribe to the channel and activate notifications. That way you won't miss any content that can transform your life.